Can you hear me?
Yep.
The sound is high enough.
Yeah, the volume's okay. There's a bit of distortion there.
Distortion. New things here. Is better.
It's like you're talking inside a drum.
If I do this, it's better.
The last little bit was. Hold it closer.
And here, sounds better here.
That's better. Yeah, there's still a bit of it, but it's better. That's
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think because in my room there's nothing on the walls, so I have a lot of echo. I think I cannot hold the mic. And here, better.
Yeah, still got that echo. Yeah.
The echo is still present.
Are you on a laptop or a desktop?
I'm on a desktop.
So it doesn't have a built-in microphone.
Well, it is the microphone of the webcam. Can you hear it?
Yeah, but it's got that echo. Yeah.
Yeah, because in all the room it's.
I've got a feeling that in settings there is something that might cope with that. Let me have a look. Settings, audio. Microphone, test microphone. Yes, you can change the background noise removal. In the settings in audio for Zoom.
In audio, what can I do?
You can change the background noise suppression or personalized audio isolation. That might work.
Yeah, I have this background disabled. And here,
It's still there.
can you see there? I don't know if it's possible to eliminate this echo.
What about personalized audio isolation?
Okay, that's
No.
doing an imprint.
Yeah, no, it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
I
if
think
you
the only
turn the
way
input volume down, maybe?
Yeah, you still can hear me?
No, it's still there. Yeah.
But but like this, the sound is better, correct?
Yeah, it's a little bit better, but yeah.
It's better.
Bianca, Ramis, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were there listening to my sound troubles.
I can understand you now.
Yeah, to do something about that. Okay. I have to come back because my son has woke up and I have to deal with that. I'll try to come back.
Hmm.
Hello.
Is do you know if Tyler is all right? Did this every-
Oh, I didn't. Is something wrong? Something happened with Tyler?
No, he usually writes back in a day,
Oh, okay.
and I wrote a post on Monday, and
Right. I haven't heard anything. I haven't
uh,
actually seen Tyler for a couple of weeks. Yeah. He's in the army in Singapore, so maybe they've gone away on exercises or something like that. But who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
not a problem. Just
Yeah, yeah,
got me a bit worried.
yeah. Well, yeah. We do worry when we don't hear back. So maybe stories get going, don't they? Maybe something's happened. Yeah, yeah.
When the pattern is disturbed.
Morning,
That it?
afternoon, evening.
Yeah. It's afternoon here, so I guess that makes it early morning for you,
Yes, 6 a.m.
right?
Yeah. How's your car? So you had your car stuff? Vince.
My car.
You
My-
cast. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, I've got a new cast now. This thing, which is much better. I can use my fingers now. Yeah.
Take it for granted, don't we?
Oh, we do. Yes. Yes. As soon as you can't use them, you know it. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So has anybody got anything that's been buzzing around in their head?
So much buzzing, but I don't know where to start.
So did I hear you right that the amount of buzzing is a lot and nothing is clear in that?
Yes, so nothing comes to the front.
Mm. So what is the general feeling of all of that? Is that difficult or just there, or what how would you describe the tone of all of that buzzing?
It's just the like I could look and in the browse, and like in a shop browsing for books, and what would caught my eye.
And have you been doing that? Have you been looking through it, looking for an interesting title?
I'm doing it right now.
Okay. Are the books in that shop arranged alphabetically or by color or by size?
Maybe a bit thematically.
A bit what, sorry?
Thematically.
Grammatically, yeah, okay.
Thematically. Thematically?
Thematically, right, yes. So all the science fiction are next to all the documentaries are next to all the yeah, my category. Yeah. And which is the biggest section?
Spirituality.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
We were talking with Tyler about conditioning, and I think I understand it differently, because he said about how many, I don't remember, but there is some enjoyment is unconditioned, or it is not conditioned. A lot of enjoyment in life.
Absolutely, yeah. So what is your version of conditioning or being
That
conditioned? Yeah.
well, but if I am enjoying the sky, for example, then it's the enjoyment arises on condition of seeing the sky. So it is conditioned. And for me, there is no reaction without conditioning. It's not possible.
So how would you see that conditioning works? How does conditioning happen?
How it come to be?
Yes.
That I'm conditioned.
Well, conditioning in general rather than you at the moment.
Many different ways. It can be evolutionary, or, biology.
Okay, we're really talking about psychological conditioning here, aren't we? Not so much biological conditioning. So biological conditioning would be evolution over a period of generations. And of course, that does have a part to play, but really we're talking about brainwashing, aren't we? When we talk about conditioning, we're talking about being trained to respond to certain cues in a certain way. That's what I see as conditioning.
I think it's hard to tell, really, sometimes.
Yes, sometimes, of course, it is very difficult to separate that from what would be a spontaneous response to something. Because even a conditioned response would appear to be spontaneous because the actual conditioning behind it is not noticeable. It's become subconscious. That's what conditioning is about. But it is a cultural training and a personal training. So within the culture, there is going to be conditioning that's established by the family culture, which may not be in line 100% with the societal culture. But of course, it's generally not too far away from it. And then we imagine there's something that is spontaneous, pure, unconditioned responding, which it's very close to fantasy land, I think.
I just imagined me behaving like a toddler and eating anything I find on the ground and what looks eatable.
Yeah. Well, that would certainly be conditioned, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That is very natural.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Unconditioned. Not societally conditioned.
Yeah. And so, of course, young kids, young toddlers will often pick up stuff off the ground and put it in their mouth. That's part of their evolutionary development. And we, as parents, we teach them, no, don't do that very quickly, don't they? Stop putting dirt in your mouth. Don't put rock in your mouth. Don't do that. Yeah. Whether they would continue to do it as they got older, we'll never know, simply because it's trained out of them. But chances are they would learn from doing it that you can't eat a rock, so there's no point in putting it in your mouth, unless, of course, you were requiring whatever might be in that rock. I mean, I could imagine people sucking sandstone for calcium or
Yeah,
salt or whatever.
I had a childhood friend who was eating dirt, and her parents noticed that it's helping with her bowel
Yeah,
problems.
yeah.
Mm.
Even though the conditioning might shout out, "Don't do it," it turns out that there is something there that somehow that person knew that was not they didn't know what it was doing or how it was doing it, but they knew it was valuable to do it. Yeah. So when we talk about conditioning and we talk about liberation as a word that would suggest that we're no longer compelled to obey our conditioning, that doesn't mean that we don't do it. It just means that we don't do it for the same reason, or we apparently have the option of not doing it or doing it differently. But that stuff is very strong for good reason, but it is very, very strong. But some of it is pretty stupid. Some of what people say, what society says how some people should behave, is causes a lot of problems, causes suffering. I came across one recently where I responded, I reacted spontaneously and you would say impulsively. So there's a morality in that word. And then I was berated for not considering my reaction before I reacted. And so then the idea came, should I have denied or suppressed my reaction rather than express it? And that's a trick, because expressing it spontaneously does have certain consequences. But not expressing it, suppressing it, also has consequences. So is there a middle ground, or is there a more appropriate way to acknowledge that?
We just don't know what will cause more suffering. Maybe something will cause less suffering in a short run, but more suffering in the long run.
Yes.
And oh,
Yeah. It's quite a trick, isn't it? So part of the conditioning we have is that you don't impulsively express what you feel if it's culturally or socially inappropriate.
Yes, but leaving aside cultural, yes, if I spontaneously express my anger, I can hurt someone.
Yes, yeah, that's the consequences.
It's
Right, yeah. And if you don't, if you suppress your anger, then you can hurt yourself. So
yeah.
is there a middle way? Is there a way of not hurting them and not hurting you? So firstly, obviously, we don't suppress or deny it to ourselves. So if we were to not express it outwardly, but not deny or suppress it inwardly, maybe both of the negative consequences could be averted. So that was something that happened for me the other day, and it was to do with work. But something happened today as well, where I had an argument. I say the word argument, but I had a yelling match with my wife, and it was inappropriate for me to respond the way that I did. I allowed my frustration to turn into anger, and I vented that, and it spiraled because I was now yelling at my wife. She was yelling back at me, and away it went. And the whole thing was stupid. It was all over my frustration about her not understanding the consequences of losing a bolt that was irreplaceable. But nevertheless, I got really upset over that, and I was upset over losing the bolt. But the bulk of what happened was not over the bolt at all. The bulk of what happened was her not accepting that I was frustrated, and she's yelling back at me and I'm yelling back at her, and away we went, spiraled off into a terrible place. And I take responsibility. I can see that the way it happened was because I was overreacting to what happened. And I not only overreacted to the loss of the bolt, because it was a special bolt and I don't know that it can be replaced easily, but it was over my reaction to her reaction, and then her reaction to my reaction, and then my reaction to her reaction, and away it went, spiraled off into a yelling match. Crazy stuff, totally crazy. So I can say, okay, well, I was being spontaneous. I could also say, okay, I was being impulsive. I can say, okay, I was lost in my emotion. I was lost in my emotion. So all of those are accurate descriptions, but the last one reflects the reality of it more than the first ones. The last one was that I was lost in my emotion and responding to that. So how do I train myself not to have such a big reaction to those things? If I was to not outwardly express my first lot of frustration about the bolt being lost, then the whole thing wouldn't have happened. But if I was to dismiss it, I mean, that's a trivial example, but if I was to dismiss it, then that would probably have not major negative consequences, but maybe some negative consequences. So it was appropriate. So I can imagine that the appropriate thing would be for me to acknowledge that I'm now in a difficult position where I need to fix a problem that her. See, I'm still blaming. I'm saying to her negligence caused, because she didn't understand the situation with the bolt and she lost it because she was. I wanted to say because she was stupid, but no, it's because she didn't understand the way a nut and a bolt works. Simple as that, you know. She. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? How deep do these things go, eh? They do. They run really deep. Yeah.
But were you both hurt as a result of this?
As a result of yelling at each other?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. There certainly was suffering in both sides as a result of it.
Mm. Because I was thinking about, I have a friend who has temperament similar to me, and we got into discussion about, feminine, about Polish language and political correctness, and we both were very passionate and almost yelling at each other. But then the discussion finished, and okay, it's just we feel passionately, we are intense, but there was no hurt.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. I suspect that with family, it can be, they can more likely be hurt because there's less filters involved than with friends.
Well, yes, in our discussion, it was not, we were not going personal, like, you are stupid.
Yeah.
And it was just about opinions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Can I come in and share something that
Sure, of course,
is relevant to? I have a 17-year-old autistic son, and he takes a long time to process information and get his language out. He stutters a lot, so he needs a lot of just space and waiting, patience. I have no idea what happened after the last meeting when you did some kind of visual guiding, yourself and Paul, and I found that really powerful. I went straight to sleep after the meeting, then I woke up the next morning, and there's like this flatness, and it's like I'm just carrying around this. That's not true, but since then, the interaction with my son, without trying to do anything, has been a little different. There's a different perspective, and that in the moment, like when the frustration arises, and it's like a pull in the tummy. It's like, you know, it's contraction a little bit. And that there's been a bit more kind of space around the interaction. But it's not impatient space. It's like sometimes I'm waiting quietly for him to finish but it's with impatience inside. And there's been that's just kind of relaxed and dropped, and I can wait. And then there's like a noticing of this moment, this situation, this two beings interacting. And then there's not the labels of him as autistic, and it's hard because I love him to bits, but sometimes the things that go through the mind are not very kind. They're not like, it's like, you should know this by now, you know, and that's just kind of, it just wasn't there. And what I really resonated with and I really found useful was letting that anger arise and noticing. I noticed I was getting angry, and I kind of almost saw the bit where I would have flipped into just automatically doing it. And then I remembered that this is what seemed not to be there is all the past and all the future. And it was just like in this moment, and it seemed to have all the time in the world to explore another. No, not explore, because I didn't do anything. Just, I don't know, I just wasn't in control of what I was going to say or do, and there was a time I did get angry, and then there was a time that I just relaxed into the moment. I suppose what I'm saying is, you know, hear what you said about, you know, if we keep it inside, it's not healthy, and you know, that's happened many years, but and just not knowing how to express that anger has been quite an issue in my life, I think, of this life. And that's kind of, I just wanted to bring that in because that kind of resonated with me.
Yeah, that's helpful actually. 'Cause as you're talking, I'm seeing that my situation was, it was predicated on a story that I'm faced with an impossible job, which of course is not really impossible, but it just, at the time it seemed that way because I was too uptight to think about it or to allow it to settle. Well, it was a bloody screw and a bolt, for Christ's sake. You know, it was just nothing. You know, it was a unique screw. I don't know how I'm going to fix that situation, but I'll find a way because I'm good at that kind of thing, you know. But just to have that reaction is just crazy, you know, because it was like, you know, so had I been able to find that space that you were just talking about, there would be no suppression, but neither would there be that spiraling into all that anger and all of that other stuff.
But
Yeah.
also, do you have to fix this?
I haven't done anything about fixing it yet. I will have to fix it. Yeah. Well, I will fix it. I don't know that I have to fix it, but I will fix it. Yeah. I'll just have to find a way.
That's a story.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
you
like,
won't.
yeah, I like what you said about like that it was predicated on that story, because I remember last week I saw the thought that came in the middle of that, and this is before the last meeting, and it said, I'm always going to feel like this. I don't know. How am I going to, it was just the end. It was like, I'm always going to feel like this. It was so, and it felt so real, but, and then that's why it's quite good to just say it out loud, because it did something change. Not that it, I don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow, or I might just lose it again, but yeah, it's different.
Yeah, but that's a huge one. That story that I'm always going to be, or another version of that story that people frequently come up with is, it'll never end.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And
that's me.
brings with it a sense of hopelessness, a sense of no way out, a sense of trapped, all of that kind of stuff. That particular story, yeah, that's really common. That one, yeah, that's kind of pushes. We push ourselves into a corner, and then we become like a trapped animal to kind of get out of it.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, is that just driving around or being around, it's been a lot more kind of just like noticing that the judgment comes up, and like, my God, it's so noisy, this and that and them, and and it's noticing that comes up, and then it's about just being, it's about that past and future. Something's not there, and it's just part of this picture now. It's just part of this experience now, and it just softens. It just really, really like, it's like, it's more of a just a brightness, like a little, like without that person in the picture, it would be quite it'd be boring if they're all the same. And there's just that little tiny subtle letting go. So the judgment comes, but then there's a little gap that says, so what? Yeah.
And that's the break. That's so what is the break? That's where you don't, you're on the edge of a black hole, the kind of thing that could suck you in. And as soon as you say the so what, all of a sudden you're no longer compelled to go down that hole and suffer all of the stuff that will come as a result of that.
Yeah.
That's the same for my situation. That was I can easily see now, there was just that tiny moment where things could have taken a totally different direction, and none of the shit would have happened as a result of that. Yeah. And it was that instant when that thing first arose, and it was like the bad old days for me. It was like suddenly it's there, poof, in an instant. It's just huge, and there it is. We've got this volcano that's spewing out lava everywhere.
Yeah. And I think that the great thing about these sessions is we're talking about it to I don't know, to discover more. It's not about, beat myself up about how I dealt with the situation with Jack. It's just, it's really lovely just to I don't know, there's something quite, I don't know what happens when I just, speak about it rather than just quietly notice. Yeah.
One would hope, and I imagine it is the case, that the stuff that I've seen as a result of talking about it today might change the way it would happen in the future. Yes. Cross my fingers.
Um, but your anger is not a part of cultural or social conditioning.
Well, that's
Your
personal
Vince,
conditioning, isn't it? Yeah.
was it more like, a toddler getting angry because
With
his
no
toy
impulse control.
his
Exactly.
toy got lost?
Mm. And there's a good chance that that is me reverting to a 3-year-old again, a 3-year-old toddler with zero impulse control, just being frustrated about something and losing it. Poof. Yeah. And I say that because although it doesn't happen that often these days, before waking up, it was a daily event. Then it's got, in the recent time, it's got to be a lot less frequent. But I now have 2 incidences within 3 weeks. So, like it's maybe more than once a month now. But still, it's still there. It still happens. Yeah. And of course, that comes with stories that, well, it shouldn't happen. It'd be better if it didn't happen. And what can we do about fixing it and all of that kind of stuff, which of course brings a smile straight away. Yeah. I have to take some of my own medicine. That's hilarious. Yeah.
My son's a good example of like he doesn't understand social conditioning. Like it really has to be taught and modeled and communicated to him. It's like sometimes I think, oh, I don't want to teach him this social stuff. But you kind of, for his own comfort, I suppose, going forward, it has to be done. But it's as opposed to a neurotypical child who just automatically gets the cues and kind of learns. I give you an example. He doesn't like he likes a menu every week at the beginning of the week, so he knows whether he has to make a lunch or not at home, or whether he. And the chef's left, so he can't have a menu. And to try and explain that it's like the universe just doesn't matter who it is. The universe just has to give him a menu. Doesn't matter who it is. There's the actual explanation of school sends it to me. I print it out. I put it in his bedroom. It's just not there. And there's frustration when I'm trying to explain it in a different way for the 5th time. And I have to maybe resort to writing it down on a piece of paper. And then the stories come in about, poor me. I have to do this. This is hard. Nobody else has to do this. It's funny now. But it's just seeing those stories each time. Yeah.
And seeing them in a different way, like recognizing that whole process of how it might happen is totally irrelevant to him. It's the fact that it's there or not there is the big thing.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah. For him.
And to try and explain the intricacies of how it might or might not happen is an impossible job. It's not. It can't be done, really, can it?
No, he doesn't get it. No. But it's just that layer of woe me thinking that comes on top of this. The interactions is just, it just seems to be loosening a little bit to to give it a different perspective.
There's some good stuff there in the midst of the difficulty of all of that, and that stuff is that had you not had if he were not in your life and you were not faced with recognizing that stuff that is socially appropriate or socially desired, then you just would never have the opportunity to recognize just how they come about automatically with so-called normal people. You know, how those cues become learning, become inculcated. And of course, the more conservative people are, and that's usually because they're brought up in an authoritarian environment, the more important those rules are. And so in order to teach him something that's socially appropriate, it's like the easy way not the easy way, the easiest way or the most direct way is to present it to him as a rule. You know, that this is how it is and you must obey that. Right? So it's almost like the construction. So I rather imagine, just at least from my limited idea of what autism is about, that he also doesn't recognize a lot of social clues, like body language and smiling and that kind of stuff. It just doesn't register. And you can see, in fact, there was a show on television here last night in Australia where there were a whole lot of young adults on the spectrum who were doing learning how to be reporters, and they were interviewing people, and the questions they come up with were just amazing, simply because they did not have that social conditioning to ameliorate what they were asking. So one bloke asked, and it was a footballer. They were quite a famous footballer here in Australia that they were interviewing, and one young fellow said, "Do you think you're hot?" You know, that kind of question.
I love it.
It was brilliant. It was really great. Yeah. But of course, you know, we can smile at that kind of stuff. But in a lot of ways that can be innocent and not a problem. But in other situations, of course, where people are not taking into account the fact that they do see the world that way, then they could get abused by somebody. You know, I mean, there's a lot of red out there that would simply not tolerate, you know, their naivety. You know? So how do you possibly teach them? I don't know if that's the right way to put it. How do you teach them to what social clues mean without putting it in such a way that you just must obey that kind of situation? You just simply don't do that in that circumstance. I mean, they seem to understand a rule, but the understanding of the logic behind it is beyond them to grasp. You know, that's
And it's funny, as you were talking, I realized sometimes the teaching or whatever they're trying to explain or whatever comes from a place of fear. I realize.
Yeah, that's a big...
and so it's not helpful, whatever. But I don't suppose there's not really a one way fits all. It is literally in the moment, whatever is, whatever's going on, whether it's money or in a shop or at home, the menu, whatever it is, it's just got to, and I noticed this, mine wants it kind of looks for a one way of teaching them this stuff, and that's not how it works.
Yeah, and I wonder how sometimes how much emphasis is put on looking for an easy way to do it, a way that's not going to be too onerous. Yeah.
Well, the old way, probably a year or so ago, was totally avoidance.
Okay, just
It's
not
been a lot of years of avoidance, so, especially drinking, but that's not how it is now, and so that's probably why this is coming up now, because it's being looked at and faced, and yeah.
So it's actually the same issue for all of us. It's not just for the situation of your son. It's really something that we actually all are faced. You know, which ones of those things do we do? You know, do we obey the don't walk sign when there's no traffic around, or do we decide we'll walk over anyway just because we can see that it's safe and we don't obey the sign?
Yeah, see, I can't do that. I have to wait for the green man, even though everybody else is crossing with it, when I'm with him anyway.
Yeah, well, of course, that's part of teaching him to be safe,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite funny. And that's when the woe me story comes in too. It's really funny. It's all about me, isn't it?
Well, that is the way it is for everybody all the time. You know, anybody that's not all about them is probably living in fantasy land. I don't know. Even as a young kid, I recognised that there's no such thing as altruism. I don't know, I must have been 10 years old when I came across that. I had that epiphany that even the altruists are doing it because that's the way they want to see themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, also with your anger, and you know, when you shout, yelled at your wife, it's also social conditioning. I shouldn't hurt others. A toddler wouldn't care.
Well, I'm like a toddler. When I'm in the midst of that anger, I don't care if I hurt her. Later, I do. You know, afterwards. Right now, I feel quite remorseful about that happened. But when it's happening, I'm just like that 3-year-old toddler having a tantrum. And I suspect it is because it does come back, even though I said before, it might only come back once or twice a month these days. It does come back, and it is pretty much the same stuff. So I suggest that definitely I do have some shadow work to deal with. It is something that's deeply ingrained and probably goes back to the toddler stage. I don't know. My mother's dead, so I can't go and ask her what it was like as a toddler. But with shadow work, I can probably re-experience some of that. It was different in a way that that stuff that I experienced a couple of weeks ago, that was the response to that was, well, I'll take my bat and ball and go home, you know, bugger you, I'll just extract myself from the situation. So it was like an indignation, not anger, not frustration and anger. This is frustration and anger. This is what it used to be like on a daily basis before I woke up. There's something, the slightest thing would frustrate me and that would turn into anger, and then I'd be yelling. So this was like a flashback to the bad old days, this stuff. And I'm kind of honoured in a way to recognise, to have the opportunity to see that there is still something there, and horrified that there is still something there. Although I must say I never actually thought I was past it, but I hadn't experienced it for a long time like that. In fact, this I don't trust my memory either, but this explosion of anger, this frustration and then the anger. In fact, I think the last time that happened was when my wife broke a bonsai pot on me, and that was probably 4 or 5 months ago when that happened. So this doesn't happen that often. So I'm now seeing that it's different to what happened a few weeks ago, and before that there was another one. Now I saw through that one. That was me just feeling annoyed at somebody, and that was I got help with that one, and I saw quite clearly that was because I had a belief that the world should be the way I think it should be. So I saw through that one, and that I rather imagine that's finished, that one. The taking all and going home thing, that probably isn't finished, and this one certainly isn't finished. So yeah, there's work to do yet. Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed that the way that the anger comes up here, especially when I'm dealing with Jack, it's almost like my mum's voice behind me and my grandma's voice, because I live with my grandma, and it's so kind of like normal, like this is the way to do it. Like that's how I mean, I was hit with slippers, but I don't do that to my children, but that's what happened then. But there's a certain way of putting that person down.
Mm. Mm.
It's not just anger, it's got a bit of a flavor to it. And sometimes I just wonder, when I was in early sobriety, I got really angry one day, like you were saying, but just the anger just came, and I just got into this rage, and it's not pretty. And I noticed is my mum, and it was about Jack, and what was really needed in that moment is to see that she's not well, to go and support Jack, because he doesn't understand. But what happened is my mum supported me and told Jack off. And for the first time in the moment, I saw that wasn't quite the way to do it. And that was the loosening of, actually, maybe she doesn't know how to do this anger thing. And this isn't blaming, and it's just a way of.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, that's pretty important stuff, I think, to see that. When you recognise that flavour, that tells you something is, and that is about conditioning, isn't it? That's about adopting. This is an intergenerational thing that happens. Well, we tend to pass it on. Yeah. See, I said when I was a kid and I used to get belted, with the razor strop until I was almost an adolescent. And then when that didn't hurt enough, my father switched to using the ironing cord to belt me. Didn't happen that often, but it happened, and particularly when my mother would sick him onto me because I was frustrating her. But anyway, I said to him one day, I said, I'll never treat my kids the way you treat me. And I didn't belt my kids, but I yelled at them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still
Yeah. Yeah.
abuse it,
Yeah.
but I did
Yeah.
it in a different way, you know, but it was the same flavor, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that authoritative. This is my way of putting my authority on you. But in hindsight, see that there was he just didn't know. He doesn't understand. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
We do learn how to, we do learn an attitude, if you like, off our parents, and we pass that on. That gets
Yeah. Yeah.
when we, well, of course, we modify it a little bit, but you know, yeah. Mm. How have you been, Leonard? You were going through a bit of a change last time we spoke.
Uh, Basically, at the moment, I'm ill. So, yeah, the last 3 days I have been having fever, and
Right.
it was not so pleasant. But somehow, on the other hand, I'm enjoying to be at home for a week and not having to work, and then also it really gives me the opportunity to not do anything because I realize that usually, even if it's a weekend, um, it's still a bit difficult for me sometimes to not chase one activity after the other. So to just rest and be with what is. It's still kind of challenging something. And then I noticed I think it's something like a restlessness, but I'm also accepting it because, I mean, for so many years before I had this, I used to have this rhythm of searching and running after things. So I guess it's quite natural that it's not going to stop from one day to the other. But I can already see that it's like way slower than before. But now that I'm ill and I mean, I can do something, but then maybe for like I can stand up for 5 minutes and then I have to lay down again. So it's kind of just for not having enough energy, it reduces everything to the necessary. So it's like it's
Mm.
kind of I can't really put too much energy in other things. So
Yep.
or things that are not necessary. So and yeah, on Monday I had to go to the doctor and I had to wait like 2.5 hours sitting on a chair, but I had like a very high temperature. And it was kind of interesting. Of course, it was not pleasant, but I could kind of observe like these stories coming up. For example,
Mhm.
what has become with this country? This health system doesn't work anymore, blah, 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 blah. Jumping to conclusions about the general situation of the health system, blah, 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 stuff like
I think
that.
that's worldwide, not just in your country.
Or yeah, maybe also why is this happening to me? But that one was quite easy to say goodbye to because like the waiting room was full of people actually who were also like sighing and waiting
So,
for many hours. So
that's
yeah,
really good because when you're sick or when you're really, really tired, we get triggered a lot here. So these stories
Yeah,
get a bigger run under those circumstances. So the fact that you can
yeah,
see them when you're sick is pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I guess it's not a cold. I guess it's COVID or something. But I did a test and it didn't show a result. But because I'm having really strong headaches, and when I was waiting at the doctor's, it was quite interesting because I could really, I mean, I didn't have anything to do, so I just closed my eyes and concentrated or felt into this headache, and then I was really able to get rid of this unpleasant label,
They're good.
and
Yeah.
then really it got better because I guess it has also to do with um, there is a pain, but then your face contracts even more and then it gets worse. And if you are able to relax a bit into it, then it's maybe
Yeah.
a bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's good that really good that you're even in spite of this, you're still in explorer mode. You're still curious about what's going on. You're still noticing what's happening. Good stuff.
Yeah. And then, yeah, of course, I still am not able to really not do anything. So somehow on the internet I found Angelo Di Lullo's book,
Yep. Yeah, Angela's good. Yeah.
and then whenever I feel yeah that I have the energy to read, I read a bit, and I think quite it's quite a good thing to, how can I put it? Yeah, because I noticed that I felt a bit like, okay, has there been any process? Did anything happen anyway? And somehow it didn't, and somehow it did. So, but yeah, still, I'm sure that somehow it's a story, but I found it quite good to like, yeah, have a resume of of what it's all about. I mean, I could, yeah, I don't, yeah, I don't really know how to explain, but
Having a reminder is good value.
mm, yeah, a reminder, yeah, maybe something like that.
And Angelo's got some good videos on YouTube as well. He does. I quite
Yeah, and what I also
Angelo's.
like, that he has like a lot of disclaimers
Mm.
of what you should be careful about, and then I discovered like, oh, okay, I fell in that trap more than once, so that was quite good.
Mm. How's things been for you, Ramesh? You got a fairly intensive grilling last time.
Do you hear a noise?
No, not much.
Do you think the moon has an effect on uh, the psychological moods of people? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, logically, it would have if it has an effect on the oceans, and we are 96% water or something along those lines. It's logical that it would have an effect on us, but experientially, I can't say that it does. That I notice anything anyway.
I've noticed like this moon, and the last moon it was very intense.
Right.
Yesterday the energy was so intense and it was so heavy. And I had a dream. I had two dreams about my dad, which was very triggering. One was,
Okay.
yeah, there were, one dream was he's trying to hold my hand and almost like to get close to me. And in the dream, I just ran away. And another dream, it's kind of funny. He protecting me from someone who's attacking me for some reason. I don't know. And he beat him up and I felt angry.
At your father.
Yeah.
So how does that relate to your actual relationship with your father? Is your father still alive?
Yeah, there was an issue with the bank, and I called him to help me, and he called some people he knows or whatever, and then he asked me, offered that he will go with me to the police station to help me, and his demeanor it changed. There was not the usual condemnation or blaming. So he would offer something and he would say, think about it, and if you like, we will do that or whatever. And it changed. That's different. And I don't know if that dreams were affected by that. So
Okay, so normally speaking, he wouldn't be so helpful towards you, but he was under these circumstances, or at least his intention was to be helpful.
it's more about his style of communication. He used, for example, like when I was sick as a child, he was yell at me, complain, blame me for being sick, and it was super weird for me as a child. So there's this sense of distrust, anger. Usually when I was a kid also, when I was upset, he will try to make me feel better. He would say, I didn't mean to say that. I care about you, stuff like that. And if I didn't respond to him, he would go back to the anger mode and the yelling mode. So I kind of like, I don't trust you. I don't trust your sweetness or.
Yep. So that would explain the dream why you were angry at him for helping you.
In the dream, I wasn't angry at him. I was, but when I woke up, and the atmosphere of like um, the main feeling that I was feeling was anger. It was kind of like, I don't want your fucking love. That kind of anger.
Mm. What comes to mind, and you tell me what arises when I say this, do you think that was a case of, because you're going to reject me, I'm going to reject you first?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So it was protective. You were protecting yourself against the uncertainty or the unpredictability of how he was.
And also, I sense like a part of me wants to hold into that resentment, and yeah, I think it's a protection mechanism.
Mm. So you're saying, in a way, I imagine, you tell me though how you respond to this, that you'd rather not have his love than have his love and then have him withdraw it in an unpredictable way.
I just realized that that statement, what you said, is the theme of my life.
Mm.
I can see it now in almost all my decisions or relationships.
Has it ever occurred to you, have you ever thought that the way he is not something he has any control over? Has it ever occurred to you that that's his conditioning?
Yeah,
So how long ago did you first consider that? Is that recent or a long time ago?
a long time ago, as like intellectual
Yeah, sure, but
understanding.
yeah. It often begins with an intellectual understanding, but of course the intellectual understanding doesn't include any forgiveness for that. So it becomes an emotional understanding when you experience forgiveness for him not being, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do stuff.
Can I say something about my anger towards my father?
Mm.
I think it is like I know he's conditioned this way and he can't do anything about it. And still I'm so angry, and it returns in dreams. that I express it in dreams, that I yell at him or hit him, and some things that I wouldn't do because it's no point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh,
So how do you
I,
feel
I,
about it when you do that in the dream? In the dream itself, how do you feel about it? And then when you wake up and remember it, how do you feel about it? That you berate him, you yell at him, you get angry at him.
well, in a dream, I'm just angry and hateful because he's weak. You know, it's I don't know. It's like mm, like having a damaged bolt. You just you throw it out, throw it out. It's trash. You just throw it away. But this particular trash just can't be thrown away.
Yeah.
He just follows me
Are we still in the dream or are we out of the dream now?
out.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, I know. It's very strong hate, and I don't understand it fully.
Hmm. You don't understand the intensity of it, or you don't understand the fact that it's there at all.
Both.
Hmm. And your dreams don't give you any answer. They just express how you feel.
They gave me a partial answer because he was a good father, but weak,
Hmm.
mentally weak.
Hmm. Hmm. And you are strong that way.
No,
No?
I inherited
Ah,
his.
okay. Wow. Oh, yeah. You present as strong. I always see you as really strong. Yeah. Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah.
I look at myself and I see my head shaking. How is it strong?
Yeah. It's probably the seriousness that you exude seriousness a lot of the time. You know, it's quite rare that we see you laughing, and that's a softening when you laugh, and the seriousness is a strong feeling. Yeah, but of course that's my perception rather than anything real. Mm.
Well, but I was wondering, the common part with what Ramis was saying is, I have no trust. I have no trust because he was weak. And I would say that this mobility of Rami's father, with mood swings, I would also take it as being weak.
What do you mean by why weak?
That he has no composure. Yes, for me, being composed is a sign of strength. When you are a parent, there are many difficult situations you have to face, and you need to be composed, to stay composed. That is strength.
Mm.
I'm not saying that all the time, but just don't be a toddler.
Mm. I get the impression, though, that your father was consistent in his behaviour, whereas Ramiz's father was one way, then another way, and that unpredictability was part of his not trusting. But your father was quite consistent in what you call his weakness. Would that be accurate?
My father was very, how I saw him, he was nervous, very unsure of himself.
Right, right.
He was trying all the time, trying.
Mm.
It was tiresome to look at it, him trying to be a father.
Mm. Do you see my crying as weakness?
What? Your what?
When I cry readily. Do you see that as weakness in me?
Not here.
Not here. Hmm.
Yes, but I remember a situation when in my job there were when we fire a lot of people at once, and the director was also fired, and he gathered all the people, and he said that he was fired, and he started crying, and I was so embarrassed.
Hmm.
it depends on the situation.
Yeah. Is your father still alive?
Yes.
Do you imagine that he could ever change?
No.
Can you imagine that you might ever see his emotional propensity as something other than weakness?
No. How did you call it? Emotional what?
Propensity, just his a saying we have in Australia is that he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very ready to show.
Oh no.
No,
No. He's no.
it's not that. No.
No, he's trying not to.
Oh, okay. But
No, he's trying to be composed, but he's so bad at it.
yeah. So is his weakness about failing to be composed or about not accepting his emotional nature? If he didn't try to be composed, if he just allowed his emotions to show all the time, would he still be weak?
He still would make a bad father.
Right. Because a good father is
a
Yeah.
grown-up.
Grown up, okay. Which means they control their emotions. Hmm. So Ramesh, is your father like that? Is he a bad father because he doesn't control his emotions?
No, I didn't think about it this way at all. So maybe he's in the other direction. He can't control his anger.
Hmm.
He's frustrated and angry at any stupid thing.
Yep. Yeah. Hmm.
And yesterday, when I was just sitting with this feeling and felt this like I don't want your love, and I actually felt scared of him.
Scared that he might what?
I don't know. I felt like I'm not safe.
Right. You're not safe with him, from him.
Yeah, like he's a threat. Like he's causing me distress and anxiety for
And,
how I should be.
and how does he cause you stress and anxiety?
Because I don't feel able to say what I want to him.
Ah, okay.
Because every time I express myself, it always causes some reaction.
Yep. And so to not feel that anxiety, you don't express how you feel around him.
Yeah, I completely fall away.
Yep.
And any attempt of him to get closer to me is just no, don't.
Mm. Just jump in, John Lee. Don't put your hand up.
Also relating to raising children, um, to relating to Louise kid, I feel like it's an autistic kid is like a gift to learn, be free from conditioning. It's just who gives a fuck about conditioning? I remember as a child, I used to hate certain food. I don't like it. And I was shamed a lot for not eating this food. How do you reject the gift of God? You should eat any food in the table. And funnily enough, they also have certain food they don't like, but they don't recognize the
Mm.
cognitive dissonance. Like, no, they allowed to dislike this food because whatever reason, health reasons or whatever. But no, I should eat every food in the table.
Hmm. But the food they didn't like never got on the table.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So it's and it's always not really about what's happening. It's never about what should or should not happen. It's like they can't allow themselves to be free to want what they want. Like they carrying all this package of like they should be in a certain way, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it doesn't make them feel good.
Hmm. And they want you to adopt the same stuff.
You know, I trying to not to adopt all that is causing a lot of conflict, a lot of emotional distance, and it feels like a punishment.
So why don't you just give in and adopt all of that stuff for yourself? I really do want your reaction to that question. It was a provocative question. The truth is, you can't. You don't have a choice. As much as you might want to, you just can't do it.
No,
And not that you do want to, but you can't. You have no control over the fact that you can't. Like I had the same thing at the table. My father loved boiled cabbage, and my mother used to cook cabbage in a way that was just horrible. It was horrible. It was mush, and I could not. I would vomit before I could swallow it. Yet every single night when my father was there at the table, I had to eat cabbage, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't. It was physically impossible for me to swallow it. I would vomit on the table if I had to swallow it. And they could never understand for a moment why I didn't like cabbage because they loved it. Couldn't do it. It was impossible. I had no control over that. It was my body saying, I can't eat it. And I imagine for you, adopting those things that they think that they've adopted, even though they don't want to, it's impossible for you to say, yes, I will adopt them. And everybody would be happy if you adopted them, except nobody would be happy because nobody is happy that has adopted them. So it is.
I can see that it has nothing to do with whatever these conditions are. It's like even if this condition was followed, there would be some other issues that will come up. It doesn't matter. It's just something that is projected fear or whatever.
So if they had ears that could listen and they don't, if they could, what would be the statement you would like to say? What would be the reality you would like to tell?
What do you mean, the reality I want to tell?
You say it's something other than, and you see you have an insight into what's really going on. And although you could tell them what that insight is, they can't hear it. But I'm saying, imagine that they could hear it. What would be that insight that you would like to tell them? What would be that insight about what was really going on?
I don't think if I want to tell them, I feel it will cause more conflict, and it won't really help, I think.
Yeah. And it would cause more
It's-
conflict because they could never understand where you're coming from. They could never understand what you're you would like to tell them. But
Even if they do,
yeah, imagine a genie with a magic wand did something so that they could understand. What would it be that you would tell them? It's a fantasy. We're talking about a fantasy here. What is it that's in you that's shouting out to tell them, even though you know they could never understand it?
that their thoughts and beliefs aren't theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to believe in any event, in any of
Yep. But they are in fact just expressing their conditioning.
Well, you know, my father has read a lot of books about self-development and so on, and he understands what is conditioning. He lives as he wants, and still he is just begging me to appreciate, to praise him.
So all his efforts don't cause you to appreciate something about him?
No,
No.
This I don't know if I live how I want to live. I don't need anyone to validate, but he needs me to validate.
Yes, yeah. And that's what makes him weak, that he needs validation.
He's never comfortable, really comfortable with himself.
Can I just share something?
Mm.
Bianca, you know, as I'm listening to Ramiz and Bianca, it seems like they're talking about me, like as it's the things that they say is like what occurs to me as a parent. Like I recognize sometimes, like just recently more, that I'm looking for validation. I'm expecting my children to sometimes be more developed adult wise than they are. And Ramiz was talking, and he talked about that change in that swing from being loving to anger. Like that's me. And reading development books and trying to fix myself for many years, but still feeling angry. So it's like listening to my children when they're older. Yeah, it's quite an amazing experience just listening to that. And there was a time that I would be fearful of that I'm damaging the kids, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's almost like I'm just almost supposed to hear this conversation. I just wanted to put that in because everything you're talking about is yeah, my whole body is kind of like a little it's tense, but it's not fearful. It's just a recognition of what you're talking about, and actually that's what I do. It's what I do. Yeah.
Well, I think it's not really about changing mood, but I know this is the first time I give it a name, that it was about not being comfortable with oneself, because my mother also would get angry at me, and she would cry. It was not about that women can do this and men can do that. It's not in my family. It was just that when my mother was getting angry, she was comfortable with her anger. When she was crying, she was comfortable with her crying. Not that it was pleasant for her.
I know, but she didn't apologize.
But it was not, oh, I am crying, I shouldn't be crying.
I couldn't relate to how like I could relate, like I don't feel like my dad are seeking validation from me, and it's almost like the opposite. Like he doesn't give a shit about what I think or feel about him, and it's like I wish you could ask for my validation. I would give it to him, but he doesn't. Or if he does, it is not clear to me.
Mm. So you, Ramesh, I imagine you're saying that you feel rejected by him, whereas with Bianca, you are rejecting him rather than the other way around. Yeah. And and although Louise was identifying with some of those characteristics, I can't imagine that she really fits either of those situations. Mm.
I can see how everyone takes it personally, how you, Vince, started. Oh, is it about men crying?
I personally think it takes a strong man to cry openly, but that's yeah. That's
And become comfortable with it.
yes, yeah, because I cry and I am comfortable with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the common theme here for both Ramirez and Bianca is it's like there's a desire for something to be different. So like my dad shouldn't reject me, or my dad should be different, should be comfortable, and that causes suffering for themselves. And for Louise, it was more. It reminds me of a Rupert Spira thing where he answers a similar question, whereas like she was just doing her best, even though it didn't feel like it. It still was her best at that time. I think we always are. My mum's got a similar thing where she's like, I don't know, like I don't want to eat this piece of liver. Who likes this liver, you know? And she's like, oh, you'll appreciate me when I'm dead. And that's where'd that come from? Like, I just don't like the taste of liver, you know. So it's just more like I let her go off, you know, spiral out, and it's cool. Whatever. But I'm still not eating this piece of liver. I can't. It's gross.
Mm.
It's like
I wouldn't say but I am suffering because of my father.
No, that's good.
I'm just angry.
Okay. What are you saying, Louise?
I know, as you spoke there was like a little tie that kind of broke a little bit there, that it's kind of like you forget that you know, this label of children, they have their own, you know, whatever's going on here is the same over there, and it's for them. And it's like, forget, like there's this real, because it's a label of mother, and I don't know what the depth and the pull and what that means, but it's like there's a underlying strong meaning that we have to get this right, and we have to teach them, we have to protect them, and then the fear and all these labels of things as a mother or a parent or a dad has to be, otherwise you're not a good blah blah blah. And as you said, you know, all anybody is doing the best that they can in the moment, and that's just sounds like a cliche, but
No, it's true.
yeah, but you know, like Ramiz and Bianca, they're on this call and they're on a journey of beautiful self-discovery, and like Bianca says, she's not suffering, but we're having a discussion about some conditioning, and that's all. It's not, I realize I put this blanket of parenting on top, and it's, you know, I've just had that same, Jack's just been in and had that same menu conversation literally just now, and it was fine, it was okay. And it's always different. There's this, it's such big blanket labels.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's just now, like Bianca's dad's doing what he's doing, Ramez's dad's doing what he's doing. Yeah, I just
it's
forgot.
also just now to say, and Bianca's feeling what she's feeling, and Ramez is feeling what he's feeling, and Jack's feeling what he's feeling, and you're feeling what
Yeah,
you're feeling. Yeah, exactly. All of
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
there's
the whole
some
idea
link that is
something that needs to be fixed is getting us out of what's going on now. So if we
say
stop
that again,
thinking
Vince.
if we stop thinking about fixing something, and we've got a problem to solve with the menu. We don't have a problem to solve with the menu. What we have is a discussion going on about the menu.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it. End of story.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a bit tricky too, because like when Bianca, when you say you're not suffering, right, you're just angry. Some people might describe anger as suffering, and I don't know. I don't know if it is. I think suffering is the stories you tell yourself about how it should be different. So if you're angry about the way your father is, and there is no stories about how it should be different, then there's probably no suffering. It is just the way it is, and that's it. And you're angry, and that's it. Yeah.
If anything, I'm curious about
Yes.
why am I so angry?
Yes. Great. That opens things up beautifully. Yeah. And we don't even expect an answer, because an answer is going to come from the future. But right now, there is curiosity about what is there now. And that's brilliant. That is couldn't be better. Without an answer, without even knowing, without ever finding out, just being curious is great. Yeah.
I feel suffering for me is more when there is conflict of agendas or should or shouldn't. Like
Mm.
I'm feeling angry, but I shouldn't feel angry. This is the suffering arises from me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So Bianca doesn't say for a moment she shouldn't be angry. She quite accepts that she's angry, or at least I think that's the case. Mm. And she's curious about it.
Mm.
So there is.
I also don't say that I should be angry.
Okay, even better. That's excellent. You know, so you don't say you should, you don't say you shouldn't. There is just anger. That's brilliant. That's lovely. That's the only kind of anger that is sweet. Mm. Yeah.
I've noticed feeling being in this group, for example, or when I feel this kind of openness, like relaxation, that I can be whatever, I can't bring that home when I go to my parents, for example. Like I can't. It's
Yeah.
impossible. It's like going without a shield.
Yes. Yes.
It's like going naked. I'm gonna go to
Yeah. Get rocks thrown at you.
some.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
It makes me feel sad, really.
Yes. Well, that's a big one. That's certainly something I really know about. Yeah. Yeah. Why can't the whole world be like this? You know, why can't the whole world be accepting and open and just feel the way we feel right now? Yeah, that's huge, that one. And of course they can't. It can't. The whole world can't be like that. It's just not possible. It's a very enticing fantasy, but yeah, the reality is that most people walk around with their armor on and their shields up and their swords out, ready to fight. Mm. So there is some value in accepting that you'll never be able to go armorlessness without your armor home. You'll never be able to be that way. But you will. But it'll be a little different to what you imagine. You won't feel as vulnerable. You'll feel quite confident in your lack of need for armor, because you'll recognize that you can see when the projectiles come towards you and you can easily sidestep them. That will be a case that I suspect that will happen. And it will come with the emotional recognition of the innocence of those who still carry around their armor and are always ready for a fight, that they don't have any control. So there will be a feeling forgiveness for them. And at that point, yeah, that you will also not need your armor. because they're pretty clumsy in the way they do fight. They're pretty unsophisticated in the barbs that they throw. So you'll easily sidestep them at some point. Maybe not just yet, but soon. Yeah. But of course, recognizing that the family of origin is the best at triggering stuff, because that's where most of the conditioning was. So you'll do it with other people first and easier, and you'll do it with your family of origin.
There is a situation with my grandma. She lives now with my mom, uh, and I live in her place for now. And it's been like more than months, but she doesn't feel home. She said like, I want to go back to my home, but she can't really walk. She used um, a chair with the wheels, and also she has something that she help her walk with, and she's forcing herself to walk with this thing, so she can say, well, I can walk now, so I can go back home. And she hurting herself. And I had a conversation with her. She was saying that I should not. It's only because I can't move. I can't help myself that I have to stay here. I wouldn't stay with anybody else's home if I'm not that sick, you know. And I told her, why? Why do you think so? Well, what's the problem? Who said that you shouldn't? And she said, like, I did. I told her, are you sure? And she said, well, I should not stay in people's home. Like I have my home. And I still ask her, like, why do you believe this? And she said, if it's not my thought, then whose thought it is? And she felt like scared, uh, like she's possessed or something. But then I told her, maybe this is something you learned from childhood and you just adopted it without knowing. And she said, you're right, I believe what people tells me all the time. But she was complaining first because like my mom doesn't stay with her as much or talk to her because my grandma has a difficult in hearing, and she doesn't want her hearing aid. And she was feeling lonely, and I can relate to what she's feeling. It's like she's feeling like a burden. She's feeling like taking place. She would say like my wheelchair or this thing that she helps her to walk, taking too much space. And I don't know what to say to her. I don't know what to tell her to just feel comfortable, to feel safe, that she doesn't have to put a lot of pressure on herself to be able to walk again, having all that hope that she might go back to her place again. She wants to say, I go back to live with Rams again. Like, And I will tell her, no, I'm moving on. I'm moving out. I'm not staying here. And she's still stubborn. And I sometimes I feel very angry. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? But I won't express it. And I understand it's her conditioning, and I feel sorry for her. But like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Mm. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. I mean, her generation, you would imagine, grew up in a society where extended family was always there to support each other. And yet she's behaving like a modern day Westerner, saying, I have to be independent. I mean, this is your grandmother. How old is she? She's well and truly in her 80s or more. Yeah.
78 or something.
Yeah. And yet this thing of independence, that's deep conditioning, that stuff. Very deep conditioning, that have to be independent. Yeah.
It feels to me it's more like a pride. I don't know. Or what will people say about me? Like, what people?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just us. Like, who's gonna be concerned about you staying here? Like, who? It's only you who are so concerned about staying here.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
And your mother.
Ramez, can I? That really reminded me of something yesterday. I was in a charity shop and there was this picture of a guy with cancer, quite an elderly guy with cancer, and the community had raised enough money to take him on what he loved boats, and they took him on his last boat trip, like a motorboat thing. It's just a beautiful picture. And I had this thought that I was so, if that happened to me, nobody would do that for me because I wasn't worthy. Like, I didn't have that kind of love and people around me to do that. And it was really, as you're saying that about your grandmother, it's like that belief that you're not important enough in the world to have people care about you and look after you. Yeah, just reminded me of that because we're all the same. Like everybody, we just we just have different experiences come up, but we're all worthy. We're all but we don't see it ourselves.
That brings for me, Louise, what you say, and a realization, Ram, is that you're approaching that situation logically, but your grandma is approaching it emotionally.
I also can feel what she feels. Like, I relate so much about what she's feeling, and I would feel the same. I would do the same. Like, I know what she's going through, but that's why it's difficult for me to counter her
Yeah.
view, because I relate to it so much, but I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So is it possible that she could continue to feel the need for independence, etc., whilst accepting your mother's and your hospitality? at the same time. Instead of them being in conflict with each other, they just live side by side. So emotionally, she feels like she should be independent, but she accepts that the situation is practical. Like, so she could go home, right? And this might be a story you could paint to her. She could go home and be by herself, and while everything is fine, there would be no problem. But it would take simply the metaphorical banana skin on the floor for her to have a fall, and then things would not be fine, and there would be no one there to help her, and she might lie there until somebody discovers her, because she won't be able to get back up. So from a practical point of view, it's for her own, in case something happens, that she should continue to live with your mother. Not because she's not independent, but because if she does have that fall, at least she's got help there, immediate help, which is very important.
She even tried. She woke up and in the middle of the night, and she felt she doesn't want to wake up my mom, and she tried by herself to walk to the bathroom, and she fell, and they tried to help her, and it's so stubborn, like, and it's like all conclusions leads to no, you should stay here. There's no logic in staying by yourself. You can't. You should accept that fact. You can't. But she doesn't. She's like, no, I want to live in my home.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So no amount of logic is going to change that feeling for her. And if
I
somebody falls, really, really difficult for someone else to help them get up again. It's a dead weight body is really, really hard to lift up.
Yeah, she fainted once, and me and my mom was unable to lift her up. It's so heavy. I can't imagine how heavy it was.
Yeah, and that's two of you. If one of you would be impossible. And if by yourself, oh boy, that could be. Yeah, my mum, just before she went into the nursing home, she had a fall, and even though she had one of those communication devices where she could press the button around her neck and call somebody, she lay there in the bathroom doorway for 2.5 hours before she got help to get up. Yeah. So yeah. But old people can be stubborn. By golly, they can be. Yeah. So there is no answer to this at the moment, and that is your dilemma. How do you accept that there is no answer? She is going to continue to want, and your mother is going to continue to not want, and you're going to continue to not want, and there's no answer.
I'm thinking it's just a matter of time until she just adapt to the situation and just accept it. Like, there's no way out of it.
Yeah, even though she's already had a fall and she can see the difficulty of that, it still doesn't change her mind.
I even stopped arguing with her. Like, when she said, like, I want to go home, I don't respond anymore. Like, okay.
Mm.
She would say, like, when I'm able to move by myself, I will go home. And we tell her, okay, when we feel good, we will get you back home.
Yep. You could even, I don't know, that it just a thought, you know, you could give her a test that she must pass before you will allow her to go home. And the test might be that she has to sit on the floor and she has to be able to stand up by herself from sitting on the floor. Right? And she'll never be able to do that. So maybe she'll never pass that test and therefore never be able to go home. But you would have to get her to agree with something like that too.
And I can even notice that when she was living here, she was very sick and she was in too much pain. And she was also in psychological pain. She was very depressed, and the way she looks also is very different. Like right now, with my mom, she can move, she can walk, she can speak, she can eat. She wouldn't be able to do all of that here. She's like, I spent a month without eating in this home. She was very depressed. She was very sick.
Yeah, that's when she had the
And
bad leg and she couldn't walk.
yeah, so in our home, she feels better in many ways. She like I look at her face and her face is just glowing and she's happy and
Yeah,
like I don't understand, like you are feeling better here, and but she's denying herself to feel better. It's many ways, like it's like she's feeling she doesn't deserve this somehow.
yeah. Does she get appreciation from your mother and from yourself about how good she looks and how happy she seems?
I tell her sometimes.
Maybe more would be good. Yeah. But yeah.
But with my stubborn mother-in-law, I tried the reverse approach. I told her it will be more trouble for us if you try to be independent and land yourself into hospital.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's right. And I will have to come and visit you all the time, and that will be pain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe that would work, Rami, is that reverse psychology. Yeah.
I don't know about that. That would be too harsh. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when she was living with my aunt before she moved closer to us, she had a conflict with my aunt husband. He was very what's the word? Making her feel he would tell her like, we are doing this for you, we are doing this for you, too much.
Making her feel like she's a burden.
Exactly, and she felt very angry, and she was very rude with him because she couldn't take it. She told him, I don't want your help.
Exactly.
And she created a conflict with my aunt and his husband, and then they moved out and she had to come closer to us. So no, that strategy won't work with her.
Louise, I had a question.
Did you say you have a question, Johnny?
Yeah. It leads to something else. What is it about the mother role that makes it feel like it's you?
Good question.
Well, the word responsibility comes to mind first. Responsibility.
And what would happen if you were irresponsible?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because that has happened. I got into a bit of heavy, well, very heavy drinking towards the end, to the point where I nearly handed my kids over because I couldn't cope.
And what were you running from?
Responsibility.
No, we're going backwards. What were you drinking to numb?
Emotional pain.
Yeah. So that's the right answer.
Yeah, not being good enough. The emotional pain of not being good enough. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you see that a role is like kind of like an actor's job to play? But then what's the difference between that role and then the role that we play in real life? I'm saying the difference is that emotion. That's the thing that makes it super believable. Does that make sense?
Johnny, I want to get, I'm just about to get my son in the car, and I can feel the split. Like, I'm trying to watch out for the taxi and be the mom.
Okay.
It's actually what your question. So I would love to come back to this, because I will be on my own in about 5 minutes. So
okay. Yeah.
But if you could ask me that again, that would be brilliant. I can give it full attention. Thank you.
Yeah, no problems.
Cool.
Okay, well, I just got a low battery warning, so I'm going to go and get my power supply and put my laptop on power while we wait for that.
I'm like to Johnny. When I was saying about my anger, how it's it's not I shouldn't, it's not I should, and I watched, and I don't know if you are just tired, but you had this face, and I thought, he doesn't believe me. He doesn't believe me. He can see through pretending. And yeah, but there is with doubt, but like my father is just mimicking this being comfortable with himself. You know, he read all the books, and but maybe I am also just mimicking, and maybe I'm a bit better than him. Because Vince thinks that I'm strong.
The first thought that comes to mind is maybe your dad thinks being the best dad, or the best dad in his eyes, is to appear comfortable. So he tries to be like, nope, not crying, yeah, that kind of thing. So he's trying his best in that way.
Well, it's not just being a dad, being a good human.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that still applies.
the right way of living. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe he's not so spiritually advanced as you, or even emotionally advanced, and I feel like it's hard to push people in that direction. Life does that for them. Like, you're here emotionally mature due to life, not because someone told you to, you know? So I give people space to be like, I give my mum to spiral out and be like, you'll only appreciate me when you're dead. Like, how can I?
Yes, it's not so much now. The doubt is also about myself.
Okay.
You know, it's like I see it often, but I get angry at at some characteristics that I have myself. So if I'm angry at him because he's mimicking being comfortable, but he's not really. And I can also mimic this being comfortable with myself as a coping mechanism.
Why are you trying to mimic being comfortable? Did you hear me?
Yes, why? Well, right now I'm not even sure if I do. You know, it's like my father. I can see that he is only mimicking, but in his own mind, he's doing it. He doesn't know that he's just pretending. He believes it's the real deal.
It's kind of like blaming someone for being unenlightened or unawake. You know, you're blaming someone that's playing a role and they forgot they're playing the role. But
But because of that, I have doubts about myself. That I know it can be the same for me.
oh, right. No, that's healthy. That's healthy doubt, no?
Oh, thank you.
It's better than blame your dad. You like point it back at yourself, like, oh, it's good.
I got the impression that you were blaming your dad for you being like you are.
It can be somewhere here, you know, there are some remnants. And it comes up in dreams.
Mm. It's interesting when something comes up in a dream, we could look at it as expressing something that's there, or we can look at it as expressing something that is there. And there's a big difference, isn't there? You know, because the second one is getting it out. You know, it's yeah.
Bianca, have you ever felt sorry for your dad?
Felt sorry for my dad.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, not in a good way. Yeah, I feel pity for him.
Pity is an interesting one. Is that a way of saying you feel sad about it, or is it a way of saying you look down on it? You disdain.
Yeah, it's both.
What do you think in your mind, like what other way he could be that could be acceptable for you? Is it that he stopped mimicking being comfortable, or being good at mimicking?
Good question. I remember there was a scene in C.S. Lewis' book where there was a man who had uh, an actor. It was an image of a soul. A man uh, had an actor on a leash, and a man was never speaking, only the actor, the persona. And the persona was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and in the end, the man vanished. Only persona left. And I feel like that's with my father, but he vanished. There is only persona. I can only have pity. What can be changed?
Wow, that was graphic. It almost says there's no possible way of reversing it because he's gone. Yeah, just persona.
So can you land on acceptance now? If there's no chance of change, can you be like, oh, this is the way it is?
I would, on a conscious level.
That means you've still got hope that he can change.
I would. No, it's like I have sometimes we want impossible things.
Right.
Yes, and
Eh.
we know it is impossible, but the desires is still there. What can I do about the desire? It's there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what?
That's painful for me. To want something that's impossible.
But I hear Bianca saying
Yeah.
she wants it, but she accepts that it's not going to happen, both at the same time. And she's quite happy with that at a conscious level, but in her dream, she still shouts at him.
Okay. So Louise, do you want me to start from the top?
Sure, that'd be great. I just wanted to acknowledge something though, that John Lee, when you asked Bianca the question, and there was a moment, it was just a beautiful smile that I saw in Bianca. There was it was just like a moment of recognition of something, and it was just beautiful, beautiful smile, and like, yeah,
Lisa.
yeah, yeah. Mm. So I don't know how the question
Yeah, I forgot
comes now. Yeah,
it.
I think it was
My
about
version,
roles, wasn't it? Mm.
my version of the question was about the feeling of responsibility. Now, that was my twist on it, but there I heard John Lee ask about responsibility. I wanted to ask you, what was the feeling associated with being responsible?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start from the top and we'll go down that ladder. So
Okay.
I think my question was, what makes the mother role feel like you?
He said feel like, not think like.
Uh, like a tense up inside.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that's really, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, I was trying to think, I was thinking, but actually it's the feeling is tenseness.
And if you were to label that, what would that be?
Don't know how.
We could go back up a step where you said, I have to be responsible. And then I asked, what would happen if you weren't? And then you said, oh, I started drinking before.
Here's
And
a
then what
story.
were
Yeah.
what were you drinking to run from? What feeling is this? Is this the same feeling?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you can't name it, can you feel it?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
get close to it?
Yeah. It's closing in
Where is it?
my stomach, upper stomach. I think it's, yeah.
Good. could you get closer and try to, don't necessarily need to describe it to us, but you just get so close that you see it's so much detail of it, like its size, its weight, its color, how hot it is, how cold it is.
It's quite black.
Uh-huh. Is it moving? Is it vibrating? Is it still?
No, it feels quite still. It feels like a black rock.
What's in the middle of it?
Of white.
Can you dive in?
Hmm. Yeah, the white is shimmering.
Good. Can you bring it closer and let it stay in just as you would invite your child in?
It's quite like locked. I have to be this way, otherwise you're not a good mum.
That's all right. You're going back up into thought. Can you dive back
Yeah.
in?
Maybe I could just like let that rock be. I think I'm trying to change the rock.
Yeah.
My hands are just relaxed. Didn't realize how clenched they were.
Can you get even closer? What shade of black or white is it?
Well, the black is literally like a rock, so it's quite jagged, and it's different shades. It's like a piece of coal, quite compact, but the light inside is like a little star, like a little shimmering star. It's like sometimes the shimmering star gets a little brighter, and then the coals just closes back in again. It says no.
Can you
Almost
dive
like
into this star? Because this isn't the star the center?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Can you go into the center of that? And what does that feel like?
Oh, it's like a bit of a tug of war. Oh, no. It's come over here.
Yeah, let it move. Give it space. Where does it want to move?
It's like backwards and forwards. The rock wants to just stay compact. Have a look at the star. The star's moving. It just shimmers. It's in the same place, but it shimmers. That's all I can say.
Can you bring it in closer to you?
I would say that it's more like me going in closer to it. That makes sense. I don't know.
Can you get so close that you merge it with it?
Yeah. No, it's gone up here. The black rock has moved out a little bit, and there's a little bit more silver, a little more grey silver.
Is this the whole thing that you're experiencing, or is there something missing? Are you seeing the whole feeling?
I actually don't know. I don't know. The tenseness is gone.
Okay, this is good. So since this tenseness is gone, if you were to go back to the mother role, where's the difference now between a different role you play? Say like daughter, mother, daughter. What's the thing that sucks you in now? Like, I have to be the perfect mother because of this feeling. But you've explored this feeling. Was it so bad?
No, because when we were exploring it, it's not attached to to that thought, and that was when you asked me to go to the feeling rather than the thoughts. So I just focused on the feeling. So now when I go back out to the thought of a mother or daughter, it doesn't kind of make sense.
No, it's good. It's good. So that means now when you have to play the mother role, you can see a little gap, because that gap before was like hinged upon this emotion, or else I have to be the perfect mother, or else I'll feel this feeling. Now you've found freedom in to play this mother role completely, freely, fully, probably even better, because it's not based upon this, you said, fear.
Yeah. I think that's what's been, I've seen recently. Like, it is only in the, like, now, like, for example, earlier when I couldn't answer the question, because there was thought about the split of attention, but there wasn't the extra stressful, should be, got to be on top of it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Like there's no mother role, there's no daughter role, there's just being here in the moment. Like all I had to do was be with him, to let him out the door, to give him a kiss. You know, do you call that a mother, or would you just call it just doing what's
You can call it motherhood. You can be like, oh, now I'm just mothering, but now you know it's not who you are, because the stickiness isn't there, and the stickiness was fear. Do you see that?
There was a feeling of freedom when you said, I don't know what you just said. You just said that there's, I don't know what you just said, but I just realized there's no, I don't know, I'd have to be bonded to that role of what I think is mothering.
Yeah, and then the only thing that makes it believable is due to that stickiness / fear. Now I could,
Yeah, right, wrongs,
yeah,
fear of being judged as a mum, fear of future children not wanting to be with me, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, gosh, all that fear. And that's what you said, that's not who you are. That's not
yeah. So
who you are.
my next question: who are you now?
Well, the white star comes to mind. It's like
Wasn't that the fear? What's looking at the white star?
or it's all gone blank. I don't know.
That's the answer. Because what we think we are, that's what we think we are. It's not who we are. So now it's blank. Now what? What is this question pointing to?
I actually don't know.
Perfect.
I don't know.
Now,
don't know.
there's one more. I'll push you a little bit more. What is the letter I?
A thought.
Yeah. What is not I?
A thought. That's there's no.
Yeah.
I can't describe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
And
just
then, so what are you left with when I ask you, what are you?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Mm. Oh, all I can see now is the mental churn whenever I'm trying to think of something to say. Yeah.
And it can churn away, because what is the churning made out of?
Just not. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Just this. That doesn't make sense either.
No, you're nearly there. What constitutes the churning?
What constitutes the churn?
Give me one example of what the churning is, say.
I'm a mother. I just speaking.
Yeah.
Even before
We can.
even before I speak, it's forming.
Yeah.
An
And what
idea.
is? You just answered it. What is the idea of I am a mother?
The idea that there's an I or a me.
Yeah.
Or a
How
Louise.
much reality does an idea have?
None.
Got it.
None.
Yeah.
None. That
And then, what is reality?
reality is before the thought.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. It.
You can go one step further. You are right. And then one step further is, what is reality? What is unreality?
Reality is the thought and the perception that goes with that thought and the conditioning.
And then what is it when you say reality?
I don't know. It's just really quiet. It's just really quiet.
The word reality is also a thought.
Wow. Yeah.
So what are you left with?
Nothing.
So if that fear comes up again, what can you do about it? What do you do about it?
Sometimes the fear is not recognized, it just takes over. It's a bit like that man on the lead.
But is there a time that you do recognize it, even if it's like a day later?
Yeah, more and more, yes.
Yeah, then that's the time to shine. Can you do anything about it after recognition?
Find that light again, look to that, because there's always some glimpse of light in the experience. Yeah, that's that shimmering light in that coal. And that's just one graphical example, but there's sometimes different.
The only thing you can do is feel it. Whether the light's there or not, you don't know. It changes all the time. Everything changes. That's why you saying that it's not moving and it's solid, have a look a bit closer, because everything is moving.
So I see there's a presumption that the black solid is bad.
And that's just the mind labeling it. Doesn't want to feel it. Fine. That's all right. You let the mind do what it does, because what is the mind?
Yeah, it's just another label. It's just a feeling. It was just a sensation.
Yeah.
Well, and so was, like it is, like it's constant. Like you said, there's movement now, there's sensations now.
Yeah.
No different to what we just went through.
Yeah. So like labeling it as fear, that's a grandiose label.
Yeah.
What's underneath that is like fear is bad.
Yeah.
What if you pull that away? What are you left with?
Just sensation. Feelings, sensation.
Why run away from them?
Why run away from them? Well, I used to drink on those feelings, or because of those feelings, or whatever, because I thought they would never go away in the moment. I know that's not true now.
Yes. Perfect.
More and more. I can't say that happens every time, but sometimes in the moment it feels sticky. But yeah.
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 The more scientific you are about how feelings work or how life works on a minute scale, you start to see it's like, oh, it kind of resolves itself because it's always moving. That's it.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we said before, like letting go of that elastic band to think I have control over how other people's lives will turn out, i.e. my children, and how they will feel. I have no idea. Like there's who knows? Who knows? And as Remy said, all you can do is your best.
Yeah.
There seems this natural tendency to think the worst, and I'm guessing that's a fear, defense. But when you know that, and I'm not in control of that. Not in control of it.
What are you in control of?
Nothing. Nothing.
What about your thoughts?
Nothing. No, definitely not. Seen that over the last few days.
Nice. So now we've come full circle. Can you play this mother role to your best of ability?
I am. Or like I am.
Good answer.
I am not. I'm not. Something is.
Yeah. And doesn't need the fuel of fear to do that.
No, there's a layer of there's a layer of fear, there's a layer of should not getting it right. There's all that stuff. That's the black rock stuff. And that's like okay. That's actually okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I can kind of see it rather than I am it. I can see it. It's both, isn't it? It's both. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, all good.
Well, on that note,
Oh, I wanted to say to Louise that throughout this whole meeting, for me, you are so soft and warm, like a fluffy blanket. I couldn't mimic it, no matter how I tried. I would like to hug you.
Thank you, Aunt Ramis. It's like talking to my children as adults. Mm. But you're okay. You're okay. But it's okay. Mm.
I would like to hug you all.
Thank you. I'd like to say, Leonard, guten Tag, wie geht's? Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen.
Ah, wow.
Ich war in einer deutschen Schule, wenn ich 6 war. Mm.
Seems like it's still present.
Ein bisschen, ja. Mm. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh.